I'd like to take a moment to be thankful for the little things. And when I mean little, I mean this novella, mostly for breaking up the monotony. Gwendys Button Box was written by Stephen King and Richard Chizmar. I picked up this book on a whim at the local Walmart when I noticed it had a co-author. King has had a co-author before, such as The Talisman with Peter Straub, and the book he wrote with his son Owen called Sleeping Beauties. Apparently, King conceived this story, but hit a wall and had a hard time finishing it. Chizmar came along and was like, "Yo bro, check this shit out," and the book was later published in May of 2017. I take notes when I read, so when I come across a novel with a lot of problems, it's hard for me to enjoy it. Luckily for me, I rarely had to take notes when reading Gwendys Button Box, because it is pretty damn good. I read it in a matter of 2 days, and it's one of those stories that stuck with me long after I finished it. First of all, Chizmar and King mesh well together. I can tell it isn't just King writing, but that's not a bad thing. It still follows some of his usual King-isms, characters having addictions, religious bullshit and whatnot, but the reader isn't beaten over the head with it. So what's the story? Gwendy is a 12-year-old girl who is given a mysterious button box from a stranger in black clothes. He tells her that each button represents a certain country, with the red being whatever she wants it to be. The box also contains a lever that gives her chocolates and silver coins. There's also a black button that is, quote, everything, the whole shebang. She's entrusted with the box and told to keep it secret and safe. Over the years, she collects the coins, eats the chocolates, and they help her lose weight and fix other small issues like her eyesight. She also uses the box to help fix her parents' marriage and cures their addictions. Granted, every time she uses the red button, she suffers illness the next day. Recompense, you could say. Eventually, she does get curious about the box's power, which results in a disaster that she blames herself for the rest of the book. I'll explain what that disaster is later. After the death of her friend and boyfriend, the man in black shows back up when she's an adult, congratulating her for not using the box for evil and for being responsible. He assures her that she'll live a long life and die a nearly painless death surrounded by loved ones and disappears forever. This book gave me a lot to think about. Throughout the years that she has the box, Gwendy goes from loving it to loathing it almost. A part of me wondered if this was an allegory for addiction or an abusive relationship, because at first she loves it. She loves the chocolates that make her feel good. She loves how the box has improved her life, or so she thinks. However, after years of worrying after it and depending on it, and the box causing her to lose friends and even loved ones, she becomes tired and finds herself glad to be rid of it at the end. Granted, she ends up becoming a writer towards the end, and on the last page refers to her typewriter as her button box, so maybe it's about the curse that comes with being creative. That's the best thing about Gwendy's Button Box. It gave me something to chew on after. I was thinking about it when I was at work, wondering if Gwendy's friend's suicide was due to the box or due to the girl's own mental issues. When she pressed that button and that disaster took place, the man in black tells her it was bound to happen regardless if she had the box or not. But still, was the box what caused it? Or was it just coincidence? The stranger in black congratulates her for not using the box for evil, which I think makes Gwendy an interesting character. She used the box for good. Sure, she got curious and pressed a button that may or may not have caused massive death, but there was never any malice behind her actions. The only time she used the red button to harm someone, intentionally, was when a guy attacked and killed her boyfriend. And even then, it was suspected that the killer was a serial rapist, so her using the box to kill him did a lot of good for those around her. The novel is rather short, as are the chapters, but it's very well paced. It utilizes its length effectively, but it doesn't feel rushed. You see a good 10 years or so of Gwendy's life unfold, but you aren't left wanting at the end. The only complaints I have is there's a small section at the beginning that gets pretty clunky with dialogue exposition. Then there's the so-called disaster. So Gwendy's curiosity gets the best of her and she decides to press the red button, picking a country that she thinks is just an expansive jungle with no people living in it. Well, it turns out that she chose Guyana. At least I think that's what it's called, Guyana. As in Jamestown, Guyana. Yeah, she might have caused Jamestown. If you aren't familiar with what I mean, Back in the late 70s, a whack job named Jim Jones and his 900 followers all committed suicide in Jamestown, Guyana. Using brainwashing, he convinced all his followers to drink cyanide Kool-Aid, with 300 some of the victims being young children. I don't want to go too far into detail, it's pretty fucked up. If you're interested, look it up on Google. Anyway, Gwendy presses the button and the Jamestown massacre happens the next day. Here's the thing. I'm not easily offended by any means. King has related real-life events to his stories before, but there was just something about trying to link the death of 900 people to a little girl's button box that rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe it's the whole 1/3 of the victims were children thing. I'm not pissed or anything. I just think that maybe King could have made up a massacre instead of tying it back to the, quote, largest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act until 9/11. Anyway, despite those minor issues, Gwendy's Button Box is a very well-written story with two writers who mesh well together, an interesting premise, and a great protagonist. I'm going to give Gwendy's Button Box an A-.